Alaska Airlines has teamed up with Hawaiian Airlines to create new nonstop international flights. Go to alaskaair.com or hawaiianairlines.com, and I'll tell you more details later in the show. I'm Rachel Belle, and this is Your Last Meal, the show where celebrities share stories about the foods they love most, and we dig into the history, culture, or science of those meals with experts from around the world. Today on the program, Danielle Chang. Danielle hosts the PBS Emmy-nominated series Lucky Chow, where she shares stories of Asian culture through the lens of food. The new season, season 7, premieres May 1st, and Lucky Chow has always been filmed in the States. But this season is shot entirely in Taiwan, which is where Danielle was born and raised for the first 5 years of her life. When I think of somebody carrying a condiment around in their bag, I think of Beyoncé, who sang about stowing hot sauce in her bag back in 2016. But Danielle travels with a different condiment.
I snuck in my little packages of soy sauce in my purse that I bring everywhere with me.
Listeners share what condiments they sneak into restaurants, and we'll learn the history of why African Americans, Black Americans, started carrying hot sauce in their bags. That's all coming up later in the show. But first, my conversation with Danielle Chang. Danielle moved from Taiwan to Texas with her family in the 1970s, when she was 5 years old and didn't speak a word of English.
And I got made fun of a lot. I was being made fun of on the school bus. People were like, ching-changing me every day back and forth. And the funny thing is, that's actually my mom's name, Ching Chang. So I just looked at them and was astonished that they knew my mom's name. These people did the time to research and found my mom's name. So
that is crazy. Did you go home and just say, Mom, they're chanting your name at me on the bus?
Yeah. But it wasn't necessarily because the kids were vicious or mean. It was just because I was funny. I mean, I didn't speak any English. I ate all these weird foods. I was different. And so it took a while to kind of get adjusted to being in America.
You're very gracious to those little kids for their behavior, which I don't think you hear very often, people kind of giving these 5-year-olds grace for being mean to you.
You know, listen, if it were an adult walking in New York City's Chinatown screaming at me, that would be a different story in 2025. But back in the 1970s, you know, it was a bit of a different story. I mean, there weren't any Asians at all in Texas, if you can believe it. I mean, people used to come up to me and want to touch my hair because they'd just never seen any Asians. So for me, it was just sort of not so much viciousness, but curiosity. Kind of realized then that if kids and people in general had more exposure and just more awareness to different races, ethnicities, gender, sexes, what have you, then there would be more understanding as well.
It sounds like it was actually food that you used to try to bring in other kids to your experience. It sounds like you had kind of an epiphany when you were a little bit younger that maybe I shouldn't try to fit in. Maybe being myself is the key.
Well, I have to tell you a secret, which is that I really didn't like the non-Chinese food I was tasting. I had never had a pizza or French fries or hamburger. And I thought that sandwiches were kind of like a lazy excuse for a warm meal. And so I was happy with my Chinese meals, which always had soup and rice and vegetables, and it just felt balanced. So I had a lot of pride in the food that I was eating, and I thought it was better than stuff that I could get at the cafeteria. And I was convinced that once other kids tried the weird-looking food, the brown food that I was eating, they would love it too. And they did. I guess it was an epiphany at age 5.
Did you offer kids your lunch at school, or were you having them over after school?
I would bring kids over and I would teach them how to say their name in Chinese and pronounce the Chinese alphabet, which kind of goes like this. It's and people loved it. They loved coming over to my place, except for some brats. I remember these cheerleaders came over and ended up steaming my pet goldfish in my rice cooker.
No.
Yes.
What? They put
Talk about trauma.
your goldfish in the rice cooker with water and steamed it?
They did, yeah.
Wow.
It was the wild days, the 1970s. Let me tell you about that. I survived all of that miraculously. And when I was in high school, my family moved to California. And so I ended up going to this public school in Palo Alto. And it was the opposite experience because everyone in California is Asian. It was very strange to be able to drive down to the Chinese grocery store and get everything we wanted. And now living in New York, it has a huge Asian population and access to everything that I want to eat.
At 5 years old, Danielle was already an ambassador for her culture and instinctively knew that she could use food to promote diversity, which is exactly the kind of work that she does now. But before Danielle worked in food media, she had several completely different careers. She was a professor of contemporary art history, a gallery director, CEO of the Chinese-inspired fashion brand Vivienne Tam. She even founded a Chinese school for children in New York City. But her very first foray into food was launching her Lucky Rice Asian food festivals. She has since done hundreds of them around the country.
I always wanted to create a career around sharing my culture. And I found that the way to get people really excited is through their stomach.
What was the first event that you put on?
Oh, this was so fun. We put on a night market under the Manhattan Bridge. David Chang hosted it. So we brought about 50 different mom and pop restaurants and chefs. People like, Eddie Wong, who you had never heard of back then, but who is obviously a celebrity chef now, was cooking up stinky tofu in this corner. Just the vibes, the energy, everything about that night market reminded me of walking in Taipei at night or in Shanghai at one of its bustling night markets. It just really felt like I'd been transported to Asia. So it was so fun.
After the break, Danielle brings me into her world of soy sauce snobbery, and Your Last Meal listeners share what condiments they never leave home without. You mentioned that you have soy sauce coursing through your veins. You like to put soy sauce on everything.
Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing. I remember when I went into Momofuku when they first opened, which is Dave Chang's reservation only 8-seat restaurant that was impossible to get into. And I snuck in my little packages of soy sauce in my purse that I bring everywhere with me. And I put it on his food. And the chef came over and was like, "Can you please at least try the food before you do that?" And so I've learned my lesson, but I secretly put soy sauce on spaghetti sauce in my potato au gratin. You would never know, but it tastes so good. It just adds that little bit of umami instead of putting anchovy paste or mushrooms. Try a little bit of soy sauce instead of salt.
I was so surprised to see because I didn't grow up with the green bean casserole that's so American on Thanksgiving with the cream of mushroom soup. And that recipe that was developed in the 60s by a cook in the Campbell's test kitchen has soy sauce in it.
Does it?
Yes.
Really? Oh, well, that's smart. I mean, it just brings that layer of depth.
Is it just the Kikkoman that you get in the packets?
No, I'm a soy sauce snob.
That's why I was wondering. I was like, can you get good soy sauce in a little packet or do you decant into tiny vessels?
Yeah, you have to decant, but there's so many cute little vessels that you can carry around that look like little fishes. But there are finishing soy sauces, there's light soy sauces, dark sauces. So I have the whole collection, but one of these days I'm going to try to brew my own.
Have you ever sneaked a condiment into a restaurant in your bag? When I was in my 20s and living in California, I used to keep a bottle of Tapatio hot sauce in my glove compartment for burrito emergencies, which came up fairly frequently. But I was living in a town that often got above 100 degrees in the summer and was also very hot in the spring and the fall. And it didn't take long for my hot sauce to turn into this kind of dark brick red brown color. It tasted funky, so I had to give this up. But I have definitely sneaked an entire container of sour cream into a couple different taquerias over the past few years because they never give you enough in that tiny little plastic cup. So I was pleased to learn that some of you, Your Last Meal listeners, are also sneaky condiment schleppers.
I used to bring raspberry jam to a donut shop that did not sell jelly donuts. I wouldn't actually cram the jelly into the donut. I brought a little butter knife and I would spread it on top.
So after going to so many restaurants in Seattle where nobody keeps salt and pepper on the table and just assumes that everything properly seasoned by the chef, I now carry purse salt that I bought from Florette in the SeaTac airport in order to properly season my food so that it actually tastes the way it should.
I often have a little Tupperware container of nutritional yeast with me. I take it to the movie theater because I like it seasoned on my popcorn. And the other thing is there's a wonderful pub up on Queen Anne Hill in Seattle. For some reason, they don't carry pickles, but they make a very delicious Impossible Burger. So I bring pickles with me every time I go to the Hilltop Ale House on Queen Anne.
I keep a tiny keychain container of Celtic sea salt attached to the zipper on my purse.
The first public mention I'd ever heard of someone packing flavor in their purse was when Beyoncé released her album Lemonade in 2016. She sang the lyric, "I got hot sauce in my bag," in the song Formation.
The whole thing about that video that's so great is like Beyonce's like hella black in that video in a way that she hasn't really shown up for in music.
That's Myra Flynn, host of the Homegoings podcast. Myra describes it as a righteous space for art and race.
The whole thing is like set in New Orleans. She's on top of a sinking cop car. And she has a lot of lyrics in there like, I like my Negro nose with Jackson 5 nostrils, you know, I like my baby hair with baby hair and afros. All kinds of things that like we're here as Black folks like, yes, like, because we know what it is to have, you know, comb your baby hair and to love our noses and our features and, you know, all the beautiful Blackness that we come from. And when she said hot sauce in her bag, it's like, we know that too. We know that because maybe we carry it too, or because our family members do. I don't know Beyonce. I wouldn't purport to say like why she did any of this, but I would say as a listener and as a fan, I was psyched to hear her be so brazenly Black. For me, it was like, it's been about time.
I have to admit, I didn't know that toting hot sauce in your bag was a part of Black culture. But Myra dedicated a whole podcast episode to that history.
We did an episode based on an audience question, which was, why do Black folks carry hot sauce in their bag? You know, I interviewed them and was just like, why did you ask this and blah, blah, blah. And she just opens up her bag and she's like, because I'm carrying it here too. And my mom carries it in her glove compartment. So it's like a bag can mean multiple things. What I've learned is that hot sauce is just one of many condiments that came out of enslavement, of the Deep South, of soul food and cooking. But hot sauce seems to be kind of like Danielle Chang's like soy sauce. It is the taste of soul food. So there's just like a personal taste, you know, just based on this culture of people who were given the scraps of inedible pieces of animal and meat to eat. Slaves were enslaved people. And they made something out of nothing. That is a phrase I hear a lot in Black community. We made something out of nothing. And what that something is soul food. And as you can see, like that tradition has permeated into white society in the South as well. When the Great Migration happened, which was post Jim Crow era, enslaved people were being freed and also just like looking to get the heck out of a place where civil rights were not a thing, right? The treatment was not good. And they'd started kind of migrating north. There was some stuff they wanted to bring with them and to taste like home, to feel like home. And one of those things was hot sauce. And so it's the sauce that has traveled a multitude of journeys. I like thinking about my ancestors being like, no matter where I go, go, I'm still going to carry this tradition with me. And so, yeah, Beyoncé said it in a song, but a lot of us have been hearing our parents say this, seeing them carry it, or we carry it ourselves. And it's been really cool to learn just how versatile and creative and steeped in tradition and prideful of our tradition that my people are.
When Black folks moved north during the Great Migration, they found a lot of the northern food to be bland compared to the soul food of the South. So they'd carry around hot sauce so they could doctor it up. There's an article in Eater that was written in 2016 after Beyoncé's Lemonade album came out by Mickey Kendall. Mickey wrote, "There's another much uglier reason that carrying your own condiments became a major part of Black American culture. During Jim Crow, Black people could pick up food at establishments that served white people, but they often could not eat in them. They were often required to have their own utensils, serving dishes, and condiments. So it was customary for Black families who were traveling to carry everything they might possibly need so that they could navigate America in relative comfort." Later in the article, Mickey writes, "In a society where people vocally take offense to the statement that Black lives matter, Beyoncé telling us she has hot sauce in her bag isn't just a line about how she likes her food. It's a relic and a reference and a reminder. The Jim Crow mindset isn't wholly in the past." Let's get back to Myra, who, for context, is based in Los Angeles. Yeah. Have you ever carried any condiments or hot sauce in your bag?
No, I haven't. I don't know, this is all TMI, but I have like acid reflux, so I can't be eating hot sauce like that personally. Like the older I get.
That's real.
I know, it's super real. I can't be eating hot sauce like that. But luckily for us right here on the West Coast, it's at every table, everywhere you go. I mean, even the sushi restaurant has Tapatio on the tables here. Yes. Yes, I was surprised. But maybe that is your jam, and I do not judge.
Tapatio is what I was driving around with in my glove compartment, though I've never tried it on sushi. Tapatio was my number one for so many years. I felt like I had an actual relationship with that handsome man on the label, but I've been cheating on him. In the past several years, I've become a Valentina girl. Okay, when we come back, Danielle shares her last meal. What would your last meal be?
Da-da-da-da. I thought about this, and it's just, I can't make choices. I'm not a decisive person. So I'm going with hot pot because that means I can have a little bit of everything.
What kind of hot pot do you like? Like, what is the broth like? What are some of the things that would go into yours?
Oh my God. Hot pot for me is an art form. I eat it all the time, and I like to make mine seasonally. So in the summer, I'll put lots of green leafy vegetables and even tomatoes, whatever's in season. In the winter, I'll add a lot of root vegetables. But I mean, overall, hot pot means a different thing to everybody. It's literally a pot, ideally a copper pot, with water. And you can season your broth and add as many ingredients as you would like, or as few. But I always hit all the categories. So I've got my meats, my seafoods, my root vegetables, my leafy greens, my starches, and then tons of sauces. I'll also throw in favorite things like lotus root and lotus seeds, Malabar spinach, bok choy, Napa cabbage, tons of mushrooms, everything from like enoki to lion's mane to shiitakes.
This is like a bathtub of hot pot.
Oh, it is. It is. And, that's a good idea to have a hot pot in the bath.
Yeah, in your hot tub.
You can. And they have hot pots for thousands of people in China. It's like in the Guinness Book record. It's a huge cauldron. It's a restaurant, actually, in Sichuan province. And I think it seats 1,000 people. You just literally grab a spot, and then everybody's ordering what they want to add. You're dipping it in the same broth, kind of cool, I think. I mean,
I
a little
think so too.
sanitary, but you're having your own experience. Everybody's eating what they want. But at the same time, the idea is that it's a melting pot, and every little piece of food you put in there is going to change the composition of that broth that everyone's going to be drinking. I just love that kind of metaphor.
I do too. I think we're too sanitary in the US. People are so grossed out by everything. It's like, I remember being in Vietnam and you go to a pho place and they'd have the fried donuts on the table. And, then they would just come by and charge you for how many were missing. And they would just keep sitting there. You didn't just get them just for you. And that doesn't bother me. But I think a lot of people get bothered by these things. Or like I lived in Japan and people would fill the bath and the whole family would take turns using the same bath water because they would like wash first.
Exactly.
That's like a human hot pot, I guess.
Yeah. And then they'll water their plants with what's left over.
Yeah. Danielle has 2 daughters. And after hearing about her childhood, I was curious what it's been like for her watching her Asian American children growing up in New York City.
It's really interesting because when I was their age, like when I was going through high school and college, all I wanted to do was fit in and, have friends. But they are really proud of being Asian and they head up like Asian clubs. My younger daughter even did a food festival at her school for Lunar New Year where she got different restaurants and chefs to come in and bring food in their gym. So I'm a proud mommy. That sounds like a little Lucky Rice mini food festival to me. Food is a way for them to show what's special and different about their heritage. And so it's amazing. That's progress.
And that was Danielle Chang's last meal. The new season of Danielle Chang's PBS TV show Lucky Chow premieres May 1st. And while you wait, there are 6 past seasons of Lucky Chow that you can watch right now on the PBS website or at daniellechang.com. Danielle also has a cookbook. It's called Lucky Rice, Stories and Recipes from Night Markets, Feasts, and Family Tables. Thanks to Myra Flynn, host of Homegoings podcast. Make sure and tune in next Thursday to The Leftovers. I'll chat more with Danielle, and I go to an amazing specialty Asian condiment shop in Seattle to do a soy sauce tasting, something that all visitors are welcome to experience. Make sure you're subscribed to Your Last Meal in your podcast app so you don't miss it. Your Last Meal is a product of Seattle's Cascade PBS. Go to cascadepbs.org to become a member and get on-demand access to all PBS programming, including lots and lots of food shows like Danielle's. And check out the new season of my Cascade PBS TV show, The Nosh. You can watch anytime on the Cascade PBS app. Go to cascadepbs.org, or if you're in Washington State, just click on Channel 9 Thursday nights at 8:50 p.m. Episode 3 airs tonight, and it's all about pizza. I recommend you get some before you watch. Otherwise, you're going to be very unsatisfied. This episode was produced with Maliha Syed and mixed and mastered by Sarah Bernard. Original theme music by Prom Queen. I created, host, and co-produced the show. I'm Rachel Belle, and this is Your Last Meal.